So, I was playing with Beyond D and with Dread Shells a while ago. It is a while ago now, because Dread Shells is gone, but I'm in my Borsig, and I'm gonna go for a shot at this KV-13 who goes blind, but I hit, and do a lot of damage and set him on fire. So, please burn, please burn, please burn, please burn, please burn, please burn, please burn. I left him on 29 health, and Beyond nicks the kill, so, yeah, okay, nice shot, nice fire, lots of damage. That was over 1,000 damage down to the KV-13. So the very next game, we were still talking about that shot in the KV-13, and Beyond said as we were driving into position, I'm going to, it's my turn to set people on fire, you know, and I said, no, screw you, Beyond, setting people on fire is my job. So Beyond said, okay, you focus on setting people on fire, I'll focus on ammo racking them. And as I say, very next game, we're in this and we're having a laugh, we're talking on TS, and yeah, I suppose a snapshot is more for Beyond and Dread and myself than for you guys, but we were having a good old laugh in TS, and I said, yeah, I'm going to set people on fire, Beyond can ammo rack. Fires are my thing tonight. So, okay, no sign of anything here. It's all dead. Oh, someone just put a big shot into the PTA. It's a T-49. And yeah, that's another fire. That is another fire. Now, I would love to end this snapshot by saying Beyond D basically ammo racked that T10 or someone else, but no, unfortunately this was a horrible defeat. But anyway, that's just for my own records and to remind Dread and to remind Beyond of that evening, as I get absolutely wrecked. Hi folks, and welcome to the Ace Tanker for the Centurion 7-1, the Tier 9 British medium, and it's one of my cursed tanks, as you probably got from the intro. Hundreds and hundreds of games in this thing, in fact over 400 games to be exact, because A, I'm an idiot and a scrub, and B, it's just cursed. It was cursed. No matter what I did in this tank, I could not ace it, but it's done. It's finally done. So it's the last of my cursed tanks, or the last of my tanks that I would consider cursed, with maybe the exception of the Lick Tractor. Yeah, it's done, and it's weird because I actually like the Centurion 7-1. You know, even after 400 games of being frustrated trying to ace this flaming thing, and no matter what I did, it was first class after first class. I just could never ever manage the ace, but yeah, I mean, I do like it, and it's strange because, you know, the rate of fire isn't considered very good, and I have to use consumables. It's one of the few tanks I actually use consumables on. The top speed, when I played most of my games in it, was 40 kilometers an hour, which is pretty poor. That got buffed in a recent patch to 50 kilometers an hour, which is what this game is, and the buff has been awesome. It's awesome. I mean, 50 kilometers an hour is not amazing for a Tier 9 medium, but it's much better than the way it used to be. The hull armor on this tank is basically made of ammo racks. You constantly get ammo racked, but I don't know, there's something about it that I like. I like it. It's got character, and even though it took me forever to ace the damn thing, I still enjoyed it despite being frustrated time and time again. So I think there must be some very good players out there who enjoy the 7-1, because this was a bloody difficult ace to try and get. Anyhow, the Centurion is probably one of the best known post-World War II tanks. Arguably probably the first real main battle tank before main battle tank became a thing. Design began in 1943, production began in 1945, and the first 6 Centurions ever built arrived in Europe a month too late. They arrived in Europe a month after World War II had ended. Or well, at least World War II had ended in Europe. So it was a little bit late to the party, but it was designed as a Panther and a Tiger killer and never got to perform that role, but Don't worry, I mean, it's seen combat in pretty much every major conflict or even minor conflict since. It was involved heavily in the Korean War. Very, very successful tank during the Korean War. It was involved during the Vietnam War. It was involved in both wars with Israel, or in Israel, the Six-Day War and the Yom Kippur War. It was involved in wars as recently as the Gulf War. So it's gotten to see combat in a lot of places, far too many to mention. And it was so successful that 19 different nations across the world use them, and some are still in service around the world today. Between 1946 and 1962, there were 4,423 Centurions manufactured, and there were 13 different Mark designs. So there are 13 Mark Centurions out there, and each Mark also happens to have variants. So this is the 7-1, but the original Mark 1 was the original Centurion. It had a 17-pounder. The Mark II became the Mark II because the turret was improved slightly. The Mark III became a Mark III because it was a Mark I and a Mark II, but it had a 20-pounder. So instead of the 17-pounder, the Mark III used a 20-pounder. The Mark IV is a very, very interesting Centurion I would love to see in game, which is it's a Centurion with a 95mm derp gun. So the Mark IV was a derp gun tank. So I would love, Wargaming, if you're listening, I would love to see the Mark IV in game. The Mark V simply had a couple of extra machine guns over the previous version, but it was enough to make it a Mark V. But the reason the Mark V is important is because the variant, the Mark V-1, was the first Centurion to use the awesome L7A1 105mm gun. Absolutely awesome gun. So I could go on, but basically you're getting the drift. Every single Mark was slightly different to the previous one, and the differences could have been very, very minor in order for it to become a new Mark or a new variant. But anyway, this tank is the Mark VII. Why is this one a Mark VII over the earlier Centurions? Well, it's because the engine deck was redesigned. That's simply one of the minor differences. The engine deck is slightly different on this than the earlier Centurions, and it had a third fuel tank added. So the Mark VII, different engine deck, and it had an extra fuel tank. Now, why is this a Mark 7-1 and not a Mark 7? Well, it's a Mark 7-1 because it simply has a little bit of extra armor on front over the Mark 7. So, Centurion Mark 7-1, it gets the 105mm gun, and it's slightly better armored over the previous variants of Centurion. So, if it has improved armor over the earlier Centurion variants, just how improved or how good is the armor on this tank? Well, it's both good and bad, because if you know what you're doing, the Centurion 7-1 is not very well armored. If you don't know what you're doing, then this can be quite difficult to pen, and you'll end up bouncing a lot of shots. But first of all, the upper plate is about 186, 191, but that's only if you're facing it directly. If you're shooting up at it slightly, it improves immensely, and you should be shooting up at it because this tank has great gun depression. If you're angled, the upper plate, again, it's over 200. So if you're playing against someone who keeps it slightly angled, or someone who's trying to use its gun depression, the upper plate is great, but the lower plate is absolutely garbage. It's only about 120mm thick. Lower tier tanks have no problems penning the lower glacis, and the big issue with the Centurion 7-1, like a lot of the Centurions, in fact all the Centurions, is the ammo rack is behind the lower glacis. So the ammo rack is hidden behind the weakest armor. So you've got to keep this lower glacis hidden. You've got to try and stay hull down, or try to side scrape, or just avoid getting shot here, because you are going to get ammo racked. Now the turret armor is one of the things that's surprising about the 7-1, because the turret armor can be great, or it can be terrible if someone knows what they're doing. First of all, this armor up here looks very, very weak, but look at the sloping here. So remember, if they're shooting you dead on, the sloping, even though it is only 50mm thick, gets up to 122, but you can see that the result is a ricochet. So it's very, very hard to overmatch the top of the tank. So top of the tank is very, very good, and it gets even better because remember I said you should be using your gun depression. Well, if you're using your gun depression, it gets much, much, much better. So only if people are shooting down at you, if they're in very, very tall tanks, is this going to be an issue where they're penning you here. And because the Centurion 7.1 is quite a tall tank, there aren't very many tanks in the game that can easily shoot down here, but if you can get above one, or if you're in a very tall tank, this is where you want to shoot it, and you know, it's almost as if it has no turret armor if that's the case. You can also shoot to the side of the gun mantlet. If you can avoid the gun mantlet and shoot the front plate or the front of the turret, you're down to 160. So again, lots of lower tier tanks gonna have no problems penning if they know what to do. Just don't aim at the gun mantlet, aim for the sides. You could pen this turret on this 7.1 incredibly easy. And not only that, but the gun mantlet can be incredibly effective. You can see that the armor here is upwards of around 400, you know, depending on if you hit the top and bottom. But there's also a very, very narrow strip across the middle. You can see the strip here across the middle. Now you might bounce. You can see here it's 304 millimeters thick, but closer to the gun it's only 152. If you hit this narrow strip on the flat part of the gun mantlet towards the center, you can easily pen it from the front. There's no armor behind the spaced armor, so only about 142 millimeters of effective armor. So again, if you're facing a Centurion 7.1 who's hull down, knows what they're doing, and you can't really get shots on his roof, you're not above him, you know, go for the gun mantlet, go for the center of the gun mantlet beside the gun, and you're going to pen and you're going to do damage. You're going to ammo rack him, take out his crew, take out his modules. So the side armor, being a British tank, not amazing. Again, 90, 50, you can get pen from the side. The tracks are 50, are spaced armor, but they're only considered 6 millimeters of space, or that's a plate, sorry. There's a plate considered 6 millimeters of spaced armor, 25 millimeters of track armor behind it. Rear of the tank, absolutely no armor on the rear. Back of the turret is okay, but again, you're not going to be bouncing very much unless they hit you at a bad angle. So this tank, you want to go hull down, keep that lower glacis hidden, and hope the enemy team don't know where to shoot you. So one of the reasons, so we'll speed it down, one of the reasons the Centurion was an incredibly successful tank was that it was designed to be modular. Everything on this tank could be upgraded with ease. It was future-proofed. If you needed to give it a more powerful engine, the engine was easily replaceable. Same with the turret, same with the gun. Pretty much everything on the tank could be improved as needed without needing to build a whole new tank. So it basically changed as time went on, and it was very good at it. It also met all the requirements for being considered a good tank. It blended speed, mobility, firepower, armor. During the Korean War, the Centurions outperformed the Pattons as the Pattons they fought alongside. Because they could climb hills, they could get to places that the Pattons couldn't. The Centurion was also able to take a hit. I should mention we're on a Himmelsdorf here, and I'm just going north, going to be going hull down, playing the tank to its strengths. You can see angled, bounce, playing the tank to its strengths, staying hull down. But not only was it able to fight where other tanks couldn't, but it could take a hit. The Australians tested a Centurion by placing it just 450 meters away from the epicenter of a 9.1 kiloton nuclear bomb blast. And afterwards, when they checked the tank, it had only moved about 5 feet from where they placed it, so it was only thrown about 5 feet. It suffered literally minor exterior damage, with things like the lights and antennae destroyed. And some of the armor plating came off and was found 180 meters away from the tank, but the tank was still in working order and was actually driven away. They could drive it away from the test. It was still in working order. Now, of course, there wasn't a crew in it at the time, because then the crew would have died, but the tank was okay. In fact, the tank was so okay that the same tank went on to stay in service for another 23 years and was involved in the Vietnam War. And during the Vietnam War, that tank that was used in a nuclear test was hit by an RPG. It penetrated and wounded some of the crew, but the tank was able to take the hit, stayed in the fight, and was still considered battle-worthy. So the Centurion was so successful it led to the end of the Conqueror heavy tank. Conqueror was cancelled because the Centurion could pretty much do anything that the Conqueror couldn't, or could as well, especially when it got its 105mm gun. So, yeah, a very successful tank. As we're working here, you see just constantly staying hull down, couple of bounces, couple of weird snapshots hit the ground instead of the enemy tanks, but we're doing okay. Not that much damage, 700 damage so far. Bounced a couple of shots, bouncing lots of shots. In fact, look at all these shots we're bouncing. So yeah, this is where you go. You go hull down, try and hide your lower glacis. and that's pretty much how you play it. The advice when I'm talking about British tanks is a lot of the later tier British tanks, you want to play them a lot like American heavies. Try and go hull down, use your gun depression. Unfortunately, you saw me get ammo-racked there. I got ammo-racked, and that's the issue I have with the tank. Just tracking the AMX M4. You're constantly getting crew knocked out, constantly getting your ammo rack knocked out. So you've really got to stay hidden. But we're just doing some work here. So in-game, the tank is... oh, missed that one. In-game, the tank has a great gun. It's got 268 millimeters of pen as we go for a track shot here. Come on, track. Yeah, there we go. A little bit of assistance damage. So in-game, it's got 268 millimeters of pen, 390 alpha damage. So it's got good pen. It's got good alpha. Take out the WZ-111 there. It's been a while since I watched this game. I'm kind of losing my train of thought here. The armor on the upper hull and turret can be good, as I showed you in Tanks GG. The acceleration is very good, so you can easily get to your top speed. You've got a power to weight ratio of over 18. Tracking the T-29 so he doesn't go anywhere, but on the minimap we're losing badly. We've been flanked. Put one more shot in. I don't want this guy going anywhere. He's firing HE now. Come on, I need to finish this guy. No, okay. No time. We're being flanked. We're losing tanks behind, so I decide to leave the T-29, turn around and deal with the tanks that are flanking us. So, and I TK a 110, and I still don't know how I did that. I'm going to rewind that slightly. So I'm dealing with this, and there are tanks behind me. I never saw that 110's outline. I TK a 110. I just never saw his outline. I saw the enemy's outline. So there's our Emil. Our Emil died. There's an explosion. I don't see the 110. And I just never saw the 110's outline. So you can see me say sorry in chat. So big fail by me. We needed every tank we had. It is 5 versus 2. And I just killed a 110. I mean, he was on low health, did very little damage, but track the Panther as he comes around the corner. But he's penning me. He's penning me easily. So again, trying to go hull down. We bounce a couple of shots, finish him off, end up taking another hit because he's got a great rate of fire. And now I'm being pushed on a couple of sides here. So I decide, I've got no choice. I've got to go on the attack. Before the 2 tanks flank me, I've got to kill this TVP. Got to go for it. Okay, I got hit once. Bounce the TVP. Kill him. Now I can turn around and deal with these other 2 tanks. So there's T32 on my team. He's on rather low health. I'm on rather low health, but we can swing around. Now, I'm playing badly here. I drove out at a bad angle. I should be hull down. I should be going hull down and using my gun depression. Why am I driving out? Irish, why are you driving out? And we tracked the VK for almost no damage. We tracked him, but 0 damage. And look, oh, he's able to pen. Look at the angle he's able to pen me. That's how weak the lower glacis on this tank is. So finally, I wake up, I go hull down. Now I'm using my best armor. He bounces. And we're able to put another shot in. So, yeah, this is desperate. So, yeah, the tank has got mobility. It's got great at climbing hills. Oh, we can finish him off for kill number 3. So, full health Indian Panzer. T-32 is on low health. I'm on low health. Oh, this is not looking good. But, acceleration, power to weight ratio is all very good. On the downside, the tank is big. As you can see, it's bigger than most heavies. It suffers a lot of crew and module damage, as you've seen. Mainly the ammo rack gets knocked out, as you've seen in this game. The DPM of the tank is only about 2,000 unless you're using consumables, so the DPM isn't very good for a tier 9. We're going to work here on the Indian Panzer. Come on. Gotta risk it. So yeah, gun handling soft stats aren't amazing for the tank either. Aim time at 2.4 is okay, but the soft gun stats are actually quite poor, so what I'm doing here is I'm actually trying to drop off radar. I wasn't flanking, I was actually just trying to get some distance between myself and the Indian Panzer. I was hoping the Indian Panzer was going to come out, but then I noticed that the T-32 had moved forward. So I figure, okay, I can't leave the T-32. So we're being capped, T-32 is there. And this Indian Panzer is a one-hit kill because I've got 390 alpha. So I'm going to risk it. Oh, okay. Indian Panzer fires. I poke out, kill him, but unfortunately, the last shot by the Indian Panzer takes out the T-32. So I'm on 4 kills. I'm on 5.5k damage, but we're being capped. Now, this is this is where the tank would have had a problem in the past, because with 40 kilometers an hour, it would have been very, very tight for me to make it back to spawn. We've still got 1 minute 40. I probably would have made it, but it would have been a lot tougher with 40 kilometers an hour top speed. With 50 kilometers an hour, it ain't too bad. I really do like this speed buff. So, like I was saying, basically this is, you know, with British heavies, or British mediums, when you get to tier 8 and higher, a lot of them play like American tanks. They just play them with, play hull down, use their gun depression, use the turret armor. So, still got a minute left, and, yeah, we're going to come from maybe a direction he's not expecting. Maybe we've got time to go north, hit from the north. He last saw me driving south, so he'd probably expected me to come from the south, so this is going to be dangerous. It depends on which way his gun is facing. So, I'm a one-hit kill. It's an IS-2, but we poke out, and thankfully his gun is facing the wrong way, but what a bounce. What a bounce on the rear of the turret of an IS-2, and we bounce. Oh, that sucks. He's a 2-hit kill. He's on 639 health, but wait till I drop off radar. Now I'm going to try and switch locations again. Not using XVM, so I don't know how good a player he is. Is he going to fall for it? He saw me come from the north. Is he going to turn around? Or is he going to have his gun pointed at this corner? So trying to stay out of proxy spot range as long as I can. 16 seconds left. I can't afford to miss this one. And he's facing the wrong way. So we're able to track him in place. We're side scraping. Long reload. This is painful. And he's firing HE, but we're able to take him out for kill number 5. So yeah, Centurion 7-1, finally done, finally dusted, finally aced. We picked up the ace, so I'm so happy to see that. But we also picked up a defender, steel wall, and top gun. And as I say, the armor. The Centurion does get criticized for its armor, but when you play it to its strength, stay hull down. And I made a couple of mistakes. I should have gone hull down or used my gun depression, and I ended up taking a couple of hits because I didn't, but other than that, we got through it and we picked up a steel wall. So, yeah, the armor can be quite good when players don't know what they're doing. I also managed to TK a friendly, but finished top on XP with 1550, 6,100 damage done, 5 kills. Was enough to pick up the ace, finally. 29 shots fired, 26 hits. So I love the gun. I love the gun. The rate of fire, when you put consumables on the tank, when you've got a good crew in the tank, the rate of fire can be, you've really got to buff it, but it's okay. It's still a little bit slow, but it's okay. Love the penetration, love the alpha damage. So we received 23 hits. 23 hits and 14 non-pens, and some of those pens were track shots or people firing HE. So yeah, I love the armor. When you can get the opportunity to play it hull down, I think the 7-1's armor can be quite good. We blocked 2,120 damage with our armor, spotted 1, damage 6, destroyed, or damage 9, destroyed 6, did almost 1,000 assistance damage, 98 base defense points, and made a loss. Unfortunately, the ammo is not exactly cheap on this tank, unfortunately, so only made 13,000 credits with a premium account. So first game of the day was a ×3, and I suffered a 2 XP fine. Lost 2 XP because I shot a friendly. I still don't know how I did that, but ×3 left me on a very, very healthy 7k XP. So yeah, just a shame I wasn't grinding it, and that's all that XP basically went into my crew. But yeah, 7-1, it is done. I do like this tank. It's a tank I've kept because even though it was a pain in the ass, I something about the 7-1 I really, really enjoy. But thank you guys for watching. If you're still with me, it's a long video today. I'll see you next time.